Can you even wrap your head around this? An empire, a single contiguous land empire, stretching all the way from Korea clear across to Ukraine.
It's almost unbelievable, isn't it?
Welcome, everyone, to the Timeless Brew.
To really get it, you almost have to transport yourself back. Picture the East Asian steppe, maybe in the 12th century. It's not one place. It's loads of different nomadic groups.
Mongols, Turkic peoples mostly.
Exactly, yeah. Each with their own leader, their Khan.
And the landscape, just
Yeah.
vast grasslands, right? Windswept, kind of starkly beautiful.
Totally. Dotted with their herds, sheep, cattle, yaks, those incredibly tough camels. Life revolved around the animals.
Moving with the seasons, following the grazing, and they lived in those felt tents.
Yars.
Furfurs, right?
Coursers, yeah. Ingenious structures, perfect for that mobile life. Constant movement was the rhythm.
It really makes you think about their daily life, packing up, moving on.
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't just the men. Women had significant power managing the moves, a lot of the herds, trade even.
While the men were known for being incredible horsemen, skilled fighters.
A tough existence, definitely, but very structured in its own way.
And these groups, they weren't exactly holding hands singing campfire songs, were they? Lots of conflict.
Oh, constant rivalry, frequent conflict, yeah. But then, out of this, emerges one figure who just changes everything. Temujin.
Right, Temujin. It's kind of a classic underdog story, isn't it? I mean, he was aristocracy, technically.
Born into it, yes,
Yeah.
but he lost his father young, faced real serious hardship, exile, poverty, the whole deal.
But somehow, against the odds, he starts climbing.
And what's really fascinating is how he did it. He didn't just follow the old rules. Alliances were important, sure, but he did things differently.
Like promoting people based on skill, not just family connections.
Exactly. Meritocracy. Imagine the impact, rewarding loyalty and ability. That must have completely shifted the dynamic in his forces. People fought harder knowing they could rise.
That's a game changer. And he didn't just reward his own people well, right? His approach to conquered groups was also different.
Hugely innovative. That idea of breaking up conquered tribes and scattering them among his own units.
Ah, smart. Prevents them from regrouping and causing trouble later.
Precisely. It was about integration and preventing future resistance. These shifts, these fundamental changes in organizing society and the military, well, they made him unstoppable.
So through, what, a mix of clever politics and just sheer military force?
By 1206, he pulls it off, unites all these disparate nomadic groups, the people of the felt-walled tents.
And that's when he takes the name.
Chinggis Khan, a name that echoes through history.
Chinggis Khan. It just conjures images of conquest, doesn't it? But it wasn't just about power or land, was it? There was something deeper driving it, a belief system.
Very much so. The Mongols followed shamanistic traditions, deep connection to nature spirits, ancestor veneration.
Okay.
And above all, there was Tenggeri, the sky god. Chinggis Khan genuinely believed, profoundly, that Tenggeri had given him a divine mission.
A mission to do what?
To conquer the world, to bring everyone under Mongol rule, under the sky god's mandate.
Wow. So resisting the Mongols wasn't just fighting an army.
In their eyes, it was resisting the will of Tenggeri himself, defying God.
That's incredibly powerful justification for what they did. And the consequence for resisting
Was simple: death. A very stark choice, really. And that belief absolutely fueled those early campaigns.
So where did they turn first? Under Chinggis Khan himself?
Initially, northern China, the Jin dynasty, and also west into the eastern Islamic lands, places like the Khwarezmian Empire. These were major victories.
Setting the stage, basically.
Exactly. And even when Chinggis Khan died in 1227, that drive didn't stop. The mission, the belief in the mandate, it passed down.
To his descendants. The golden lineage.
That's the term, yeah. The golden lineage, his direct descendants, they believe they inherited the right and the duty to continue the conquests, and they certainly did.
The pace of expansion after his death is just staggering, isn't it? What happened in the decades following?
It's incredible. The 1230s,
Mm-hmm.
they swept through Central Asia, conquering various Turkic groups, then smashed the Russian principalities.
And then they pushed into Europe.
Yeah, 1241. They delivered crushing defeats to European armies in Poland and Hungary, caused absolute panic across Europe.
I can only imagine. And they kept going.
Oh, yes. The 1250s saw another huge push, westward into the heart of the Islamic world, capturing Baghdad in 1258, a massive symbolic and strategic victory.
And eastward, too. towards China.
Simultaneously, yes.
Yeah.
They were grinding away at the Southern Song dynasty in China. That campaign took longer, but they finally completed the conquest of all of China by 1279.
The sheer scale is just mind-boggling. But okay, they conquer all this land. What happens after the fighting stops in a region? Was it just chaos, or did they actually govern?
That's the interesting part. While the conquest could be incredibly brutal, their governance, once they had control, was often quite pragmatic.
How so?
Well, for the most part, they tended to leave local political structures largely intact. They didn't usually impose their own systems wholesale.
So they use local officials.
Exactly. They relied on local administrators to actually run things day to day. It was much more efficient, less disruptive, and frankly, easier than trying to install Mongols everywhere across such a vast, diverse empire.
Makes sense logistically. Less manpower needed from their own ranks, too. What about religion? They had tenjuri, but their subjects had Islam, Christianity, Buddhism.
This is one of the most remarkable aspects. They were generally very tolerant of different religions.
Really? Given their own strong beliefs?
Yeah. Their main condition was basically that the religious leaders, priests, imams, monks, whatever, had to pray for the well-being of the Mongol Khan and the empire.
Ah, okay. So secure the spiritual support, keep the peace.
Pretty much. As long as that happened, people were generally free to practice their own faith. It was a key factor in maintaining stability, preventing widespread religious revolt.
A very practical approach. And I've heard they were also quite good at recognizing and using talent wherever they found it.
Absolutely. They weren't shy about utilizing the skills of the people they conquered. Artisans, scholars, engineers. If you had a valuable skill, they often wouldn't just kill you.
What would they do?
They'd often resettle these specialists across the empire, putting their skills to use. They recognized that knowledge and craft were valuable resources.
Can you give an example? Something that really shows this mix.
Sure, think about something like high-quality gold brocade, a luxury textile.
Okay.
To make that, you needed raw silk, which often came from China. You needed gold thread, maybe sourced from Tibet, and the highly skilled weavers who actually created the fabric. They might have come from Baghdad or other centers in Persia.
Wow, all brought together under Mongol rule.
Exactly. And this stuff wasn't just for show. It adorned the khans, their horses, even their tents. It was a symbol of the empire's ability to draw resources and talent from everywhere.
That's a fantastic example. It really paints a picture. Were there specific skills they particularly valued?
Oh, definitely. Gunpowder technicians from China, for instance. They were highly prized.
Ah, for the military advantage.
Precisely. The Mongols quickly understood the power of gunpowder weapons and actively recruited Chinese engineers who knew how to make and use them. Siege warfare changed dramatically.
So you have this massive, relatively stable area, movement of skilled people. That must have been incredible for trade, right?
Yeah.
Especially the Silk Road.
Absolutely phenomenal for trade. With so much of Eurasia under one rule, the Silk Road routes became much safer and more unified than they had been for centuries.
Did the Mongols actively support it?
Very much so. They invested in the infrastructure. They set up that famous messenger system, the YAM.
The horse relays?
Yeah, the relay post, stocked with horses and supplies, allowed for incredibly fast communication and travel across the empire. It was vital for administration and for commerce.
And it wasn't just overland, right? Was there sea trade too?
Definitely. Maritime trade flourished as well. A classic example is that iconic blue and white porcelain.
Oh, right.
You had the white pottery being made in China under Mongol rule.
And the blue cobalt dye.
Came all the way from Iran, also under Mongol rule. Brought together, creating this incredibly popular product traded across the seas. It's another perfect illustration of that interconnectedness.
It really sounds like, despite the brutal start, this period fostered a lot of exchange, maybe even innovation. But empires, especially ones that big, rarely last forever in one piece. What started the cracks appearing?
Well, a major issue was succession. There wasn't a simple, clear rule like the eldest son automatically takes over.
Oh, how did it work then?
It was more complex. Brothers, uncles, cousins, different branches of Chinggis Khan's family could all put forward a claim to be the great Khan.
Sounds like a recipe for conflict.
It absolutely was. It often led to intense political maneuvering, power struggles. Sometimes you even had powerful widows acting as regents for young sons, adding another layer of complexity. The Kurultai, the assembly to choose the leader, could become battlegrounds for influence.
So internal disputes simmering beneath the surface, did it ever boil over?
It did. By the 1260s, the tensions really broke open. Chinggis Khan's grandsons ended up fighting a major civil war over who should inherit the supreme leadership.
And that was the end of the unified empire?
Effectively, yes. That civil war fractured it. It split into four main successor states, four Khanates,
Right.
each ruled by a different branch of the golden lineage.
So the empire didn't just vanish, it transformed. What were these four Khanites?
Right, so first, in China and Mongolia, you had the Yuan dynasty, established by Kublai Khan,
Kublai Khan, probably the most famous after Chinggis himself.
probably. And the Yuan era in China is often seen as a period of significant cultural and scientific flourishing, actually.
Okay, one down. Where else?
In Persia and the surrounding region, you got the Ilkhanate, also a major center of culture. This period saw incredible developments in Persian miniature painting and some truly stunning new styles of monumental architecture.
Fascinating. What about the central part, the original steppe heartland?
That became the Chagatai Khanate, covering much of Central Asia. It had a long and complex history itself, and later on, figures like Timur or Tamerlane emerged from this region.
Timur, yeah. And wasn't Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire in India, also descended from this line?
Exactly. Babur traced his lineage back to both Timur and Chinggis Khan through the Chagatai line. So the legacy continued to branch out in powerful ways.
Incredible reach. And the fourth one, Eastern Europe.
That was the Golden Horde. They ruled over the Russian principalities and vast areas of the steppe for centuries.
The Golden Horde is definitely a name people know from Russian history.
For sure. Their influence was huge, lasting until Moscow eventually rose to challenge and ultimately supplant them. So you see, even as it broke apart, the impact of the Mongol Empire was enormous and long-lasting in each region.
It's really striking. A unified empire for a relatively short time, maybe, what, 60, 70 years at its peak?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. The period of true unity under one great Khan was fairly brief in the grand scheme of things.
But the legacy, unmatched world domination for its time, and then these powerful successor states shaping history for centuries after.
Precisely. It's that paradox, relatively short-lived unity, but an absolutely world-altering impact.
So maybe the thought to leave people with is, despite fragmenting, the sheer scale and the connections the Mongol Empire forged, politically, economically, culturally, did they fundamentally reshape how different parts of the world interacted? Did they perhaps kickstart a new era of global interconnectedness, even if violently?
That's a great question to ponder. I think the evidence suggests they absolutely did. Their impact on cross-Eurasian exchange, on the movement of people, ideas, technologies, it undeniably resonates even today, shaping how we think about power, empires, and how linked our world really is.
A truly profound legacy. Well, thank you for walking us through that incredible story. Thanks for listening to The Timeless Brew. Until next time.